Listen to your ego and your insecurities and change yourself so that you don't have them. Self-help authors, spiritualists, and self-love gurus talk about rejecting the ego and labeling it as the enemy, but that in and of itself is ego. Labeling your ego as the enemy is pure ego itself, because the ego sees things as the enemy. And the dumbest philosophy ever is to accept your insecurities and stay the same. Your ego is letting you know that it's not happy with something. And your ego is a part of you, just like your elbow, just like your pinky, just like your brain. And rejecting it because it's inherently good or because it's inherently bad, which, by the way, your ego is the thing that labels something as bad. So labeling your ego as bad is just ego, and trying to resist it or reject it is also ego. So what you need to do is just integrate it and accept it. There's no getting around it. If your ego is letting you know that you don't like something, change it. Then the reason it's letting you know that you don't like something is because there's a part of you that wants something that thing interferes with. You don't have to accept what you don't like. You're not more virtuous because you don't do what you want, right? Because you don't make the changes in your life you want to make. That doesn't make you more virtuous. It doesn't make you a better person. But everyone's bought into these philosophies that are proselyted by authors and people nowadays. Not to say that this isn't something I'm proselyting myself. I'm just trying to get you to wake up and see that you don't have to buy into the assumption that you have to reject your ego. That seems like the least spiritual thing you could possibly do. You're not going to listen to a part of yourself. I see this in every domain of life. Morbidly obese people who can't make it up a flight of stairs, get it on with their partner, and hate looking at themselves in the mirror are told to accept their body as it is, or that they can't or shouldn't change because that's just an egoic thing and they have no reason to be insecure. Poor people who live paycheck to paycheck and live the worst lifestyles possible are always worrying about money are told they don't need to be rich because that's just an egoic thing that bad people want. People in toxic, abusive, unhealthy, codependent, and negative relationships stay because they're told wanting otherwise is selfish and not right, so they should make it work. Make it work because, something you're doing is wrong. Unhappy people are told to be happy with their life because wanting a life they don't have is wrong. But the whole point of philosophizing and buying into these philosophies is to create a good life. And if the philosophy you're buying into is saying to just accept the parts of your life you don't want, first of all, the reason you don't want it is because it directly interferes with something you want. If you want to be fit or you want to look really good and you don't like how you look when you're fat, it's because you want to be fit. And remember, it is your life to live. Yours. No one else's. And anyone telling you not to live your life a certain way, or that making changes or solving problems to give you what you want, and they're telling you not to do that, that's just them being selfish. By the way, being selfish isn't inherently good or bad. Labeling them as either good or bad is just the ego. But being selfish is just what it is. However, I do think that what's pragmatic is the closest thing we can find to truth. And what's selfish with others, when you're selfish and taking from other people for your own wants, that tends to be bad. When you're selfish with yourself, that's good. So if you're doing what you want with your life, pursuing your own goals, that's a good thing. You're doing what you want with your life. But if you're telling other people they need to stay unhappy, poor, unfit, in a bad relationship because it makes you feel good to have someone stay on your level, that's bad. Those people, in general, tend to not want to see other people change because it makes them feel good about them not changing, because they either don't believe themselves or they aren't willing to put in the work to change, and it's much easier for them to just keep other people on their level like crabs in a bucket to validate that belief. And this seems obvious, but sometimes obvious things are hidden until brought to our awareness, right? So listen to your ego. If it has a problem with how you live your life in any capacity, it means you have things in the way of you living how you want. And if a philosophy doesn't help you live the way you want, you have the option to not participate or believe in that philosophy. there are no rules to life. There are laws of the universe, but there are no rules you have to follow like when you were in school. Everybody seems to walk around after school looking for someone to follow, or someone to put a leash on them and tell them what to do with their life. But it's your life, and you can create whatever rules you want to create the life that you want. There's no inherent rules. I mean, there's morality and these other things, but you don't have to just accept things you don't like in your life because some guy said to. Sorry, that makes me really mad. Just understand that you have a desire. If you are unconscious of these desires that you have, that the problems that you don't realize are problems are getting in the way of, you just have a desire you haven't fully articulated or realized yet. But once you realize it's something you want, like if you hate being fat and you hate looking at yourself, realize that you want to be fit and you want to look attractive. And once you realize that, and no one's forcing you to do anything, you just have to go after what you want. And if you want it, why wouldn't you go after it? Remember that God gave you an ego and He doesn't make mistakes. Think all the spiritualists forget about that. God made everyone. You can't be spiritualist without God. And He doesn't make mistakes. So if you're rejecting your ego, it's like rejecting God. And I don't trust anybody who rejects God. But just so you know, rejecting your ego is like rejecting your elbow because it's a part of yourself. And too many people are comfortable nowadays thinking that body parts are vestigial or have no function. Just because you can live without something doesn't mean that you should, right? People talk about you don't need your pinky toe, your gallbladder, your tonsils, but that doesn't mean you should remove them. You can live without your limbs. Does that mean that you should remove them? No. You can technically butt scoot everywhere, and so you don't need legs to get around. Just you can kind of live a life without listening to your ego. But it's much better to accept these parts of yourself and integrate them, and work to make them better. You're not more virtuous or a better person for not listening to your ego and not working to have your insecurities. And believe it or not, if you don't address your insecurities, they will fester like wounds, and they will progressively get worse as you get older. Take a moment to just look at your insecurities for what they are and make the changes now, because they won't go away as time goes on. They'll just get worse. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, ask me any questions, or argue with me. I love to talk and argue. Goodbye.